All right, good evening and welcome to the December 14th Combined Neighborhood Watch and Amazing Citizen Award. Before we get started, I just want to recognize a few people here. If you don't know, my name is Lieutenant Ashley Banks with the Culpeper Police Department, in charge of the Community Policing Division. First, I'd like to recognize Town Manager Chris Hively, who's in attendance with us, Mayor Frank Reeves, who's here with us as well. Councilwoman Janie Schmidt is here. Councilwoman Megan Taylor. Councilman Joe Short is here with us. I'd also like to thank some of our past recipients of the Amazing Citizen Award. Here with us tonight, we have Nathaniel Jasper, who's one of our award winners. Joanne Durer, who's in the back here. And Keith Price is also one of our award winners. I don't think I missed anyone. The Chris R. Jenkins Amazing Citizen Award is recognizing a very special person this evening. So we'll let the video play, and then after that we'll have Chief come up.
Welcome to Culpeper, a town and county unlike any other. Pastoral views, a vibrant downtown, where destinations and activities abound. There is one aspect in particular that helps Culpeper rise above the rest: the people. Every day, all over the community, people are working to make a difference.
Amazing Citizen, to me, is a person that does a lot for the community, really.
What Amazing Citizen means to me is a person that goes above and beyond for the service of the community, is selfless, is always willing to say yes when they're asked to help, if a group comes to them and asks them to be a part of an effort.
Somebody who is active in the community, supports the community, works to better the community, is just working, has their heart and soul in the community.
Volunteer their time wisely, and really a good-hearted, giving person.
And someone, when you learned things that they did and exactly who that person is, you would be amazed. You'd say, wow, that's I will remember having met this person.
I'd say somebody that really loves their community, that works hard to make sure that the community thrives and is a great place to live for everyone.
Loves Culpeper, loves being a part of the community in Culpeper, and does whatever he or she can to make Culpeper an amazing place to live.
Charles spares no effort in trying to make this community better. And Charles is always there when you need help. And he's always a gentleman, always courteous.
He's enthusiastic, involved, just dedicated to this community.
He's a great guy, gets along with everyone, is easy to talk to.
Charles is someone who loves Culpeper, has lived here his whole life. His family has lived here, his ancestors have lived here forever, and he wants to make this community a special place.
He's such a great guy to be around. But if you got something you need done, give it to Charles. If you got something you really didn't want done, don't give it to Charles.
He has a hard time saying no, and so
there's usually just a few people that turned out to be just worth their weight in gold. Well, Charles is one of those types of people.
He's into quite a few things for the progression of Culpeper, the town of Culpeper, and the county of Culpeper.
I know that he's involved in the History Museum. He's been on the board of that. He's been on the board of the Carver Museum as well.
He is involved in a lot of things. In addition to his years on the museum board, he's still heavily involved in the local chapter of the Sons of the American Revolution.
He's been our chapter president for 2 years. active at the state level doing things, and just, you know, the things we do around town. You look at the monument in Yow Meadow Park. There are a lot of people that contributed to that. And one that did a lot was Charles Jameson.
You may recall last year, this local chapter won the award as the best medium-sized SAR chapter in the country. And that's largely due to Charles's efforts. He and two or three of the others are the core of that, and they do so much to get that group out in front, take part in local events, put on events so that we don't forget the early part of our national history. So he's been instrumental in keeping that group in a state of excellence. Also, he's been involved down at the Carver Center and getting that museum started down there.
His work out at Carver to try to reestablish the Alumni Association and restore parts of the building and have the museum, he's been very influential in that, very active in that. And he also is working with the museum to promote the history of Culpeper and all citizens in Culpeper County.
I try to tell him to slow down a little bit, and I'm sure his wife Michelle agree with me sometime, but good luck.
Charles, it's an honor to know you. It's an honor to have worked with you over a number of years in various capacities. I'm proud to call you a friend, and I hope to be working with you on various things for years to come.
Charles, you are an amazing citizen. I know you're the first person to say that you're not and that you don't deserve these awards, but please know that we appreciate everything you do. We appreciate your kind spirit and your interest in keeping Culpeper history alive, and congratulations, Charles.
Charles, congratulations. You know, keep on going, but like I said, slow down some. I'm sorry I got you into the American Revolution, SAR, but it paid off for the long run. You know, we're doing what we should do.
Charles, it's such an honor to know you. I enjoy your friendship. I enjoy working with you. I've been truly blessed. And thank you, Charles. It's
well deserved. Congratulations to Charles for receiving this. Like I said, it's well deserved, and he's a good man. He's a good person. His dedication and enthusiasm for Culpeper is appreciated by many.
Hey Charles, congratulations on being the amazing citizen for 2023. You're definitely well deserving of that title. Congratulations.
At this time, I'll have Chief Settle come up. Deputy Chief Tim Chilton as well.
So I'll tell you, looking at all those pictures on the slideshow before we start this show tonight, you know, what amazing people. And sometimes when you think about Culpeper, you know, certain faces automatically just appear in your head when you say Culpeper. And those people that's reflected on that screen certainly reflects Culpeper. When you say Culpeper, certain names come to your head. And growing up here myself, being going to school here and being raised here, Charles Jameson was always one of those names. Nate Jasper was always one of those names. And it can go, that list goes on and on and on, as reflected on that scrolling slideshow before the show started. So I would tell you, Charles Jameson, in no large part, has recognized law enforcement and supported law enforcement well over probably 20 years with the Sons of American Revolution, spearheading, I know, with his partners with the Sons of American Revolution, Valor Awards and Law Enforcement Appreciation Awards and Service Awards. And he has you guys might not know that they have a reception and banquet just for law enforcement every year. And I know Charles plays a large part in that, supporting law enforcement. And when I say actually first responders, police department, sheriff's office, Virginia State Police, fire rescue, the fire service, emergency services, and I know Charles plays a large part in that. So again, Charles, we congratulate you. And the funniest thing is, I know Charles is big into history and his ancestry, and always looking up information on his ancestors, because how great they were and what contributions they had to Culpeper. the funny thing is, you might not think about this, I just thought about this going through that show, is 200-300 years from now, people's going to be talking about Charles Jameson like we talk about our ancestors now. And that's the cool part. And it's no doubt in my mind, 300 years from now, people going to be researching Charles Jameson. People's going to be researching Nate Jasper. People's going to be researching people like Keith Price. And it's a cool time to live in this era when we have great men and women serving Culpeper and knowing they're part of history. So thank you, Charles, for all your contributions. Thank you for supporting law enforcement over the years and first responders. Thank you for supporting Culpeper. And just thank you for your service. And, well, we wish it was probably 5,000 more of you in Culpeper. So I know Mr. Dennis says slow down. We kind of want you to slow down, but we kind of don't want you to slow down. So because you've been such great. So having said that, I'll say Captain Chilton for the next 2 weeks. I'll be able to say that only for the next 2 weeks. So Charles, come on up. I'm going to present this to you. And with great honor, we present Charles Jameson with their Chris R. Jenkins Amazing Citizen Award, the recognition of your endless efforts dedicated to community outreach and involvement, the Culpeper Police Department and the community we serve. Lost the spot. Appreciate your dedication and unconditional support. Your commitment to community service truly epitomizes what makes you an amazing citizen. Congratulations on this outstanding achievement, December 2023. Thank you. Having said that, we're going to present you some awards. So we got a lot. So I'm going to ask his wife to come forward as well to help collect some of these awards. Some of these are going to be yours. So actually, we got most of the awards for your wife.
Well, that's good. That's good.
So come forward.
The key to all these is don't let him take control of this.
So what we got first?
First one is Canacles.
Canacles. Speaking of Culpeper history, Canacles.
Second one is Raven's Nest.
Raven's Nest. That's for her. That's right.
Piedmont Steakhouse, Charles.
Piedmont Steakhouse. That's for Mrs. Jameson and the girlfriends. That's for the girlfriends too.
Part of the Green Roost one there.
Green Roost, yeah. I'm not going to go there.
Dogs.
Raining cats and dogs.
And then you get the flowers as well. So
And it's a gift certificate over there too as well, Tim.
this is a gift.
Truly amazing.
Another one from, I think that's Bright Spot?
Shenandoah. So we have the poinsettias, and also the arrangement behind you is yours as well. It's a beautiful arrangement that was donated. So also, I'll take this quick moment, not to steal their thunder, because while Charles prepares his 20-minute speech, but we do want to thank our sponsors this year. Oh yeah, thank you. We do want to thank our sponsors this year because they donate these items for Amazing Citizen, and they support our Amazing Citizens as well. So having said that, I have one more thing to read as well. Thank you for reminding me, Sergeant Caruso. I didn't bring my glasses. December 14th, 2023. Dear Mr. Jameson, as a United States Representative for Virginia's 7th Congressional District, I am pleased to offer you my congratulations on receiving the Culpeper Police Department's Chris R. Jenkins Amazing Citizen Award. The Amazing Citizen Award recognizes individuals in the community who go above and beyond in making Culpeper a better place. I am honored to once again have the opportunity to recognize you for your service to your country and to your hometown. Throughout your life spent in Culpeper, you have dedicated your time and energy to serving this community with passion. From your work with the George Washington Carver Alumni Association to preserve the school's historical significance, to the time you dedicate to the Culpeper Minutemen, and the educational expertise you bring to any event. Your commitment to the Culpeper is clear and worthy of distinguished recognition. Your dedication to the betterment of your community, as well as selfless mentality to bring your volunteer work, serves as a shining example that we all should strive to follow. This community knows how deserving of the honor such as of this award, and it's my pleasure to congratulate you on this well-deserved recognition. Thank you again for your dedication to your neighbors and to your community. Your acts of kindness and selflessness are inspiring and they have not gone unnoticed. I am pleased to join the Culpeper Police Department in recognizing you for this award, and I look forward to future opportunities to thank you for your service to the Culpeper community. Sincerely, Abigail Spanberger, Member of Congress. Thank you. And before I turn the show over here to Mr. Jameson, I do want to recognize the Sons of American Revolution. So if you guys, Sons of American Revolution members, please stand up because you guys should be recognized as well. Thank you, guys. All right. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right.
This is just going to be very short. Very short.
No, I have to do this now. I'm getting older, and I'm involved in a lot of different things, and things run together. So this is an honor to receive the Chris Jenkins Neighborhood Watch Amazing Citizen Award. I've been around here a few years, and I realize I am following some pretty amazing citizens. But while thinking about family history, especially those I knew, great memories of my grandfather, Clarence Tutt, and his goodwill, my father, St. Jameson, called Pop by many, and my mother, Elsie, who worked in the community to raise money for the Culpeper Hospital and other charities. It is sometimes funny when I am thinking of something or someone, I will get a reinforcement of my thoughts. After getting notification of this achievement, I received a letter from a young 82-year-old young lady, 6 years older than me. I call her a young lady because I probably hadn't seen her for 60-some years since we last walked out our road to catch our buses. She wanted me to know how fortunate she had been to have lived in our neighborhood while growing up with her mother and 4 other siblings, for the kindness shown to them by my family and other neighbors. Maybe I tried to follow a good example set by my family. I also have to thank my wife for her to put up with me coming up on 50 years in a few weeks. Hard to give up on things. Hard to give up on things that are important to you, and Culpeper is my home, and I have to do this too. The letter that I pulled out, this was the letter from the lady. Like I said, I haven't seen her for 60-some years, but after I'm thinking of my family, and I get this letter, her thanking, after all these years, it's amazing. Thank you. Thank you.
Now look at my group. So we're going to take a short break. And we're going to take some pictures with Charles and his family and his friends. So there's more food because we have a luncheon tomorrow. We got a whole lot more food coming tomorrow. So we want all this food to disappear. And we're going to come back, and we have a good program. We got Dr. Russel Houck here tonight to talk about things going about in the Culpeper County public school system. And he has a great presentation, a very informative presentation that you all are going to want to hear. I listened to it a couple weeks ago and saw the presentation, and it was eye-opening. And I think as citizens, we all should know what's going on in our Culpeper County public schools. We also have a couple special recognitions we'll do and a couple indoor prizes. So stick around, eat more food. We'll get started about 5-10 more minutes. Service, July 14th, 1990. Come on up. I forgot. Oh, we forgot Captain Chilton. I'm sorry. Here already. Come on up. I forgot. All right, if everybody can take their seats, we're going to get started with the rest of our prayer. I'm going to call up Captain Terrell and Stacy Nicholson up front. Do a little special recognition presentation I'd like to do first off. Oh, we forgot Captain Chilton. I'm sorry. Here already. Come on up. I forgot. So as we all know, we had an election 6 weeks ago? We did, yes. It obviously had a major impact on the town and on the town police department, as we are losing a great man, and we have a big hole to fill. And he's been here off and on 3 times. He's so good, we hired him 3 times. That's how good he is. We hired him 3 times. He's so good, but he started here with me in 1997. And a little story that maybe not many people know about. We went to the academy together. We were roommates together in a little, if you call it a trailer, in Waynesboro, Virginia. And we kind of been together ever since 1997. And he left a couple times and came home because he knew where home was. But we all know he won't be far, and we know he'll be spared out the street. But it kind of seems like he's gonna be gone for a long ways, and it's kind of weird to think about that. But we know he's just up the street, so we just got to keep thinking about that. But we wanted to present them, and I'll come over. Andrew, if you can bring it over, I can read it. I got glasses, but they ain't that good. Come on over here, Tim. He works for us now, all of us. So we are all his bosses. So if y'all need anything, please call him. I'll give you a cell phone number. But just a little small token for our appreciation for Captain Chilton for his many years of dedicated service to the town of Culpeper. With great honor and recognition for your 21 years of loyal and dedicated service to the Culpeper Police Department and the citizens of the town of Culpeper, we wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Years of service, this is the funny part. Years of service, July 14th, 1997 to December 31st, 1998, October 8th, 2001 to November 30th, 2004, and November 28th, 2006, and December 31st of 2023. So thank you, Tim, for all your hard work and what you've done for the town. You've certainly made the police department a better place than you found it 3 times. And we look to continue all the foundation, all the hard work you laid here. And I know you won't be far, but it does seem like it's going to be a long ways. But we're going to have to make that adjustment. So hopefully we'll fill the gap that you're leaving here. And we hope you all the best in your future endeavors. He said he didn't have to speak tonight, which was a good thing, but actually he does have to speak tonight.
Well, I guess this was one of those things you don't expect, but since it was on TV, I guess this was the reason for this. I would have dressed a little better, probably, if I'd known this was going to be something in front of the camera. But thank you to these guys, and thank you to the staff of the police department for so long. 27 years doesn't seem like it's a long time when you're in police work, because it almost seems like it's like this. And what Settle was talking about was when we were in the academy, we really lived in a room that was the size of like a bathroom. And it was just as nasty as a bathroom. So, and I'm gonna partly say that was because of Settle. It wasn't because of me. So, You know, but we had the room inspections and we had all those things that you're supposed to have in a paramilitary agency and organization and stuff like that. And we use it to our advantage, and all the little, you know, hospital corners and all those things you're supposed to do, and you're supposed to do everything exactly like a military academy is supposed to run. But we found our way around a lot of those things. But one thing we didn't find our way around was this agency, and we didn't shortcut anything here. We haven't shortcut anything in Culpeper. So I'm hoping that's what I'm going to bring to the sheriff's office, and I know I'm going to try to bring that to the sheriff's office and not shortcut anything when I get there. So a couple more weeks and things are going to change. You're going to see a lot of things different, the way I do things, the way we did things here. I'm going to take a lot of these things that we do here and bring them to the sheriff's office. But I've also got a lot of different ideas that I'm going to throw out there. Sheriff's office has got a lot of wonderful people. I did 130 interviews this past week, and for current employees. I have 51 applications sitting there waiting for new people that want to come to work there. So you're going to see a lot of new faces, you're going to see a lot of new ideas, and you're going to have a lot of new things in Culpeper based on what I do and what I'm going to bring to the table. So thank every one of you that voted for me in here. The ones that didn't vote for me in here, we'll talk after this is over with. So, but I appreciate everything, and I appreciate the police department for everything they've given me in 27 years. Thank you so much.
So we thought about not doing this tonight, but we have another get-together planned next week that's be more law enforcement appropriate gifts being given. That would not be appropriate to be given here tonight. So, we do thank our Culpeper Media Network audience and our Facebook Live audience and watching that. So, without further ado, I know he's been sitting here patiently through all those antics. Is Dr. Russel Houck, and as I said before, he has I think, an eye-opening presentation with what's going on in our Culpeper County Public Schools, and some good things and some not so good things, and he's going to let you know about it and how they're going to correct it. So very, very informative. So hope you enjoy it.
Well, thank you, Chief Settle, for having me. And before I begin, I want to offer my congratulations to Mr. Jameson. I had the great pleasure of working with his daughter, Kim, when she started out her career as an educator at Sycamore Park. And if you can judge a man by his children, he's a great man. So what I have for you tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is some information. Certainly props to Michelle as well. I don't want to say it was all Mr. Jameson, but thank you. What I'm going to share with you tonight are results from a very important behavioral risk survey that we conducted in 2022. And give you a little quick background on what we did. Back in 2017, we realized that this community had not really surveyed the youth of this community and what they were doing when they're not being watched. Last time we'd done that was 2002. So we got a grant from the Culpeper Wellness Foundation. Then we used that money to hire researchers from the University of Virginia. And then the School Health Advisory Board, which I'm a member, we come up with 94 survey questions that we wanted to ask our 7th to 12th graders related to all types of risky behaviors. So we conducted that survey, we got the results, and quite frankly, some were quite shocking, quite saddening in many respects, and you'll see some of those. And then the school board decided, okay, what are we going to do about this? So then we created some wellness goals in 2018, and the school board had to put a lot of effort and time and grant money to making school a better place for our kids. But I want to reinforce a couple points. This is a community issue. The kids all happen to come to school. But the things you're going to see here are things that are happening in their homes, in their neighborhoods, and that's what I need to stress. Yes, we have a large part to play in making sure our children are healthy and safe, but we cannot do it alone. So what you're going to hear tonight is what are our teens showing us and what are they telling us? So John? Some of you may be familiar with the adverse childhood experiences, and that's a little assessment that's given to adults to kind of see how much trauma or chronic stress they've had in their life. Now, what we did in the survey, we didn't ask all 10 questions of the ACE, but we embedded some of the similar questions from it just to kind of see what our kids would tell us about some of the experiences they have at home. So next slide, please, John. So here's some of the questions that we asked related to the ACE. The first question related to, have you ever been injured by a parent or another adult at home? In 2017, and I'm going to just round numbers for sake of simplicity, roughly 20% of our kids said yes. That number stayed pretty consistent in 2022. And I should explain, the proportional difference is actually the rate of increase. The rate of increase. And that's what the researcher says is the most important number to watch. So statistically, very much the same. Another question, have you ever saw a parent or other adults engage in a physical fight in the home? Once again, roughly 20% of our kids reported they had witnessed that. And by the way, these are 7th to 12th graders who answered this. Over 3,000 of our kids answered this survey. Another question, saw your mother or other female guardian get hit by her partner? 13% went up slightly to 14%. The next question is, anyone who lives now or did live in your home have been sent to jail for illegal drug use? And the reason those questions are important, and roughly you can see that actually increased. Because what research tells us is that if a child lives in an environment where that's going on, they're likely to have changes to their brain chemistry. Their actual brain changes as they develop. They become highly reactive because it's fight, flight, or freeze when you're in survival mode. And so for children who live in what we call chronic stress or have a number of these traumatic experiences, they truly will act differently. And research shows that many of those who engage in criminal behavior later in life had a lot of ACEs. No surprise there, I'm sure. So this was important for us to kind of understand what of our kids living with at home, and then maybe how is this manifesting at school? And I'm not saying that every kid who gets in a fight or has a battery has a lot of ACEs, but clearly research tells us those correlate. So what I want to show you here is some of the data from our student discipline. And what you'll see on the left-hand side is our results from 2018-19. That was the last full school year we had before the pandemic. And then what you see across there is incident count. That means how many incidents we did have at school for that, the number of kids involved. That also shows you the percent with incidents, because another takeaway I want you to have tonight is, starting as some of these may be, the vast majority of our kids come from homes where their parents and their guardians love them and take good care of them. But you'll see some trends here that may be indicators that maybe there's some work needs to be done. So I'll show you the percentage of kids who engaged in that. Then we show you the results of our last school year that we just completed. So battery of staff, just like it sounds, that means that a staff person was hit. Major means the staff person was actually injured. They actually needed medical treatment as a result of what happened. Now, luckily, it's a very small number. Most of those occur with our very youngest of children. Because they live in homes that I described earlier, or quite frankly, lack of maturity, they're very highly reactive. A number of those also relate to our children with disabilities. And yes, that's something we teach the kids. A lot of what we teach children is how to behave, how to control their emotions, identify their emotions, and certainly not to be reactive when they become upset. It takes a lot of skilled professionals, ladies and gentlemen, to make that happen, and we have a lot of skilled professionals in our schools that make that. But that's a number we're always tracking, because clearly no one goes into the education profession to be hit by the students, but it does happen. The battery of staff minor, 190 cases. That means no injury. Once again, those are generally our younger kids or those with disabilities. That number actually has gone down to 135. Now, does that mean because kids are doing it less? It could be. I would also maybe estimate that maybe we're showing kids more grace. After the pandemic, we were so happy to have our kids back in school full time, and because of the challenges they had faced, I know we all were just like, you know what, let's give these kids some grace. So maybe that is part of that, or maybe we're just doing a better job of teaching our kids how to control their anger better. So it's a positive trend. I just hope it holds. And then, of course, not just staff sometimes get injured by students, but then we look at when they hit each other. A battery of student, it means it's a one person committing the battery. You can see we had 9 major. Major, once again, means students were injured, require medical treatment. And you can see those numbers were pretty low part of the pandemic. But if you look what happened in our last full school year, those numbers are increasing. Those numbers are increasing. And by the way, these numbers are not unique to Culpeper. If you looked at other school systems across the nation, you would see similar numbers. Don't have all the explanations for it, but that's obviously a troubling trend we need to keep track of. And then once again, the battery of student minor could have been a simple shove in anger. Once again, no injuries, 271. 440 last year. 440. Fighting major, once again, means that two students are engaged in mutual combat, meaning there's not necessarily a victim. They're both engaged and seem to be equally at fault for the interaction. We had 18 of those that resulted in injury, went up to 63. 63. Fighting minor, 157, and that number actually dropped a little bit, but I'd rather have the fighting minor than the fighting major. So you can see we have some troubling trends. Are our children committing more acts of violence at school? Our data says yes. Our data says yes. Thank you. Next slide. So we want to figure out, how do our kids feel about school? Do they feel safe at school? And these are just two measures. Remember, there's 94 questions. I'm just going to give you some of the highlights. So we want to figure out, well, one symptom of not feeling safe is I need to carry a weapon so I can protect myself. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the major reason that so many of our young people in cities and other communities are dying, because they're all afraid of each other and they're arming themselves to the teeth, and the slightest disagreement can end up deadly. So we wanted to track that. So in 2017, almost 3% of our kids admitted that they had done it. And then, of course, that number went up a little bit, proportionally, by 30% in 22. We also want to see how many of our kids actually have been threatened with a weapon at school. 9.4% prior to the pandemic, 11.3% last school year. Once again, a proportional increase of about 20%. Next slide. So what we also want to look at is, okay, what's our data tell us about us catching the kids? And I'm no insult to my law enforcement friends, but they don't catch all the criminals in the streets, and we don't catch all the bad guys and bad girls in school. It's just the nature of how we operate. We do the best we can, the same way law enforcement does the best they can. So we didn't have any cases of weapon use, and we define weapon use as that you pulled something out, usually a knife, could be a dangerous object, and you were threatening someone with that. You put that person in fear that you were going to actually use it. Had no cases of that prior in 18-19. We had 2 last year. Once again, a very, very small percentage of our kids do that, but obviously we had 2 of those. Firearms possession, non-lethal. These are typically the airsoft or BB guns. I'm not going to say that, I don't want to jinx it, but we've not had a firearm in our schools in many, many years. And we're very concerned about that, and we certainly are always having our antenna up about such notions, and I'll talk about that more in just a second. But certainly, BB guns, airsoft guns, kids have them. We had 3 cases of that brought to school. Knives. A knife that has a blade of longer than 3.5 inches is actually a weapon, and so we have to treat that differently. The Code of Virginia treats that differently. We had 4 cases of that previous and 3 last year. In the possession of a smaller knife, we had 10 and 9. So those numbers are relatively the same. But what we don't know is how many kids may be carrying that we're not aware of. And one of the disturbing trends, and I'm not saying it's unique to this generation, but kids don't want to snitch. They don't want to snitch. And so much of this stuff often happens where? On social media, outside of school. They start their taunts, they start their arguments, they have their jealousies, they have their tiffs. And one of the disturbing trends that I'm seeing is that kids will often show a picture of a gun when they're angry at their friends. Dealt with 2 cases recently of that, where the way they scare their friends, or that maybe their frenemies or their enemies, is I'm going to flash a picture on social media of me holding what looks like to be a gun. And that never happened in my entire time growing up. And we had guns in the back of the trucks. I grew up in Stafford County. We didn't worry about kids bringing guns to school. But what's also disturbing is that the kids are seeing these images and often not reporting it. And in some cases, they told their parents, and their parents did not report it. Just dealt with 2 of those in the month of December, and I'm like shaking my head. In this modern age of school shootings, and someone is making threats that they're going to bring a gun to school, or they want to show this gun, and some of them are fake, some are just toy guns, some are real, and you didn't think to tell your mom and dad? And mom and dad, in a few cases, didn't think to call us? This is where I need your help. Whether you have grandchildren, children, neighbors, you need to reinforce to everybody that if they hear something, they need to say something. And if the child is experiencing this on social media, the best antidote to that is invade their privacy. Encourage all the parents of our teenagers. My children are grown, but if they were still at home, I would be looking at their social media feeds. I would be looking at what they're doing because they're experiencing it. And I think one reason they're not reporting it, it's become too commonplace. There's a situation all of us are familiar with that when the first time something happens, we're shocked. Think about mass shootings. We're shocked. But what happens over time? Our attention span on these regularly just dissipates. And that's just human nature. The more you experience something in life, it becomes normalized. I certainly hope that threatening each other with weapons that this generation may be engaged in is not becoming normalized where the kids just don't even think to tell mom and dad. That's just speculation on my part, but it just worries me because anecdotally we're seeing some of that. Okay, next slide. Well, certainly everybody that's been alive for the last few years has heard a great deal in the media about teen mental health. And so we asked our questions, certain questions related to teen mental health. So we asked questions related to extreme anxiety, anxiety that's so bad that you can't function. That's how we defined it in the question. In 2017, more than half of our kids reported it. Right after the pandemic, almost 2/3. Probably not a surprise, but a proportional difference of 22%. Anxiety for all number of reasons is rising off the charts in all age groups, but particularly our youth. And we could speculate to why. Certainly they live in an environment that none of us grew up in. The stress of constantly being on social media, you know, the old days if somebody said something unkind to you at school, you went home and you could be with your family, be with your good friends and forget about it. Unfortunately now kids can't escape it. The pressures to succeed. The pressures to succeed. They're seeing everything that happens out in the world and wow, how come I don't look like that? How come my life isn't like that? Or the fear of missing out that still exists. They see all their friends having fun and they're not there. So the anxiety truly is a societal issue. But the impact on our youth is severe because this is their formative years. And every minute they're thinking about what they don't have or what they're missing or why they're scared. They're not engaged in learning and they're basically not engaged in happiness. They're just not engaged in happiness. This is what makes me sad. Speaking of that, did not go to school because of anxiety. Almost half reported that in 22. Meaning that they were, for whatever reason, the source was, they didn't go to school because of it. Feeling sad or hopeless for 2 or more weeks, those are symptomatic of depression. In 2017, we had roughly 32% reporting that. That number went up to 45%, a 43% increase. These are the ones that really shocked us the first time, and I'm not saying I'm not shocked now, but you know, things get normalized. In 2017, 16% of 3,000 of the kids who live in this community said they had seriously thought of committing suicide. Who can do some quick math for me? 16% of 3,000. You guys can do the number in your head, I'm sure. That's a large number of kids. Once again, it makes me sad to think we have this many kids in our community are so sad they think about checking out. So then we also asked them, well, how many have actually, excuse me, that number went up to almost 1 out of 4 in 22. 1 out of 4. Made a suicide plan. Actually not only thought about it seriously, but actually had thought to the level that they could probably carry it out if they wanted to. 15%, 23%, and the attempts, kids who told us that they had attempted in some way or form to kill themselves. Almost 10% in 17, the number increased to 13.6 in 22. The only positive trend I see in these numbers is the last one. We asked the kids, did your parents or guardian even know about your attempt? Well, in 2017, almost 68% of the parents were unaware their child had attempted it. Thank goodness that number went down. And I would speculate during the pandemic, the kids were home more, and I guess the parents were maybe just paying a little bit more attention. This is my guess. But those are certainly numbers that I think just kind of grip you to think that's how much unhappiness some of our kids are feeling. So our division totals. So what we have to do, and this came out about 10 years ago, General Assembly passed a law that said anytime a child is threatening harm to self or others, we have to do a threat assessment with a team. That team usually involves a law enforcement officer, our school resource officers participate in that, our school administrators, and the school counselors, somebody with expertise. So that team gets a report that a child is thinking of self-harm. Now, that report sometimes comes from the child themselves. It could come from a teacher. More often than not, it comes from a friend. So, and we only know what we know, right? We don't know how many are thinking it or talking and we're just not aware of. But 170 times we assess kids for self-harm in our 2018-19 school year. That number dropped slightly. And I was talking with my colleagues, school counselors, about this. Well, once again, it's because the kids are less thinking of harming themselves. That's a hopeful thought. Or has it become so normalized that they don't bother to report their friends or having the thoughts like they did in the past? That has just happened so much. They just like, it's just another friend emoting that they don't want to live anymore. I hope it's not that, ladies and gentlemen. I am just speculating. Positive trend. If that trend continues, I'm going to hope that maybe our kids are happier, more fulfilled in their lives, have more love and affection from the people that care about them. Because those are the things that protect kids from wanting to do such things. Next slide for me. Substance use. Once again, these probably are not surprising to you. Anybody pays attention to the news and just kind of aware of what's happening in our society in general. So we ask kids about vapor product. That first one refers to nicotine vapes. So back in 17, roughly 30% had said they had tried it. That number dropped slightly in 22. Positive trend. I'm going to hope that continues. We asked them if they were currently using, meaning had they used at least once in the past 30 days? Well, 9.7 said that in 17. Number cropped up to 13.5 in 22 for a 38% increase. Current alcohol use. Had had at least one day in the past 30 days they drank alcohol. 15%. That number dropped slightly to 14.2%. Current marijuana use. That number was 9% in 17, went up to almost 11% in 22 for almost a 20% increase. Offered, sold, or given an illegal drug on school property, meaning if someone offered to either give it to you or sell it to you, 10.6% reported that happening. In 17, that number went up to 16.2 in 22 for a 52.8% increase. Next slide for me, sir. So I want to show you some of our data, some data that we have related to substance use. So we have to level our substances because we don't treat nicotine the same way as alcohol and marijuana, and we certainly treat opioids and prescription pills at a much harsher level. So nicotine, prior to the pandemic, we had 155 instances of that involving 131 kids. That number jumped in 22-23 to 198 cases with 172 kids. Alcohol, 11 cases of it in 18-19, jumped up to 15 in 22-23. Substance use, THC, and most of this is not leaf marijuana, ladies and gentlemen. This is primarily either the vape THC, which is very hard to detect, or one of the worst things I think that humans have ever invented is the edibles. The edibles. They look like candy, can't differentiate them from candy by looking at them, and those are the cases that we're concerned us the most currently. So as you can see, THC use, we had 11 cases, 24 kids involved, 62 cases with 56 kids involved last school year. And I joke, and I probably shouldn't joke, but I tell the kids, because I'm also the discipline hearing officer, so the kids that are involved into it heavily come see me. And I tell them, their parents, this is not your granddaddy's marijuana. The potency, and my law enforcement officers in the room could tell you, some of this THC vape is 85% pure THC, where the leaf may be less than 20%. It's like the difference between taking a beer and a shot of grain alcohol, if you remember what grain alcohol is. That's the difference. So when these kids are smoking it, nothing like the marijuana that was in the 80s, 90s, or before. A lot more potent. And then the distribution cases, we had 5 cases that we caught the kids in 18, 19, 13. You may hear about overdoses. You might have heard, people talking, well, a kid overdosed at one of our high schools or middle schools. We used to average maybe 2 a year. where we had to send kids to the emergency room because they had ingested something at school that made them sick enough to have to go. We're probably averaging almost 2 a month now. In every case but one, it's been THC products, the vape or the edibles. We've only had one case of fentanyl that we can point to. I hope that trend stays exactly where it is and goes to 0. But if you saw the news, you might have seen in Amherst County, Central Virginia, not too far from here, some elementary kids brought some gummies to school to share. They were put in a baggie, evidently they had been priorly used for fentanyl. Luckily, none of the kids were harmed, but 2 parents are being charged. That was in the paper today that I saw. Maybe you saw that same account. You know, in the old days, we could smell the cigarettes, we could smell the marijuana, we could smell the alcohol. You guys were in school, you probably remember those days. We can't hardly detect this stuff. Very hard to detect it. And that's our challenge. Next slide. So the last category of things I want to share with you are sexualized behaviors. And so we asked our kids, have you ever been forced to do something sexual? In 17, 12% said yes. 18.8% reported that happened to them in 22, for a 56.8% increase. Sexting, you know, that's when kids take pictures of themselves and then they ask for a picture of someone else, things that we never ever would have thought to do, just out of a sense of modesty and integrity. It's fairly commonplace, I would say. If you talk to teenagers with their smartphones and cell phones, they may not participate, but they're aware of it and sometimes see it. I'll just give an example. Several years ago, my younger daughter was in high school and we were seeing these cases, and I said, Liv, you know, did somebody ever send you a new picture of themselves? And she goes, yeah, Dad, it happens all the time. I said, what do you do with it? I just delete them. It became commonplace where it didn't even register for her. That's what scares me. It's becoming normalized behavior for our youth. So have you ever seen a sex? That number stays fairly consistent. I guess that's a good thing, but still a lot of kids that are doing it, at least that are admitting to it. Ever watch pornography? 36.6%, and then you got 35.7%, just a slight decrease. And if you're not familiar with the research on pornography, the pornography available in the smartphones that these teenagers have are things that you never could have seen until you were 21 or 18 years of age in generations past. And parents are naive to think, oh, you must be 18 to get into this site. Well, we've tried it. I don't remember the ID being checked. I don't want to be an alarmist, but people that are worried about the books on a library shelf being a bad influence on the children, ladies and gentlemen, those books are rarely ever checked out, to be honest. But every single day, at the tip of their fingers, is some of the most gross, egregious sexual acts that distorts the minds of our young people, typically makes men less sensitive to women. It makes girls think they need to act like that to attract a boy. And the research on pornography, if you read any of it, it's startling. It's distorting what love is between people. And the aggressiveness of sexual behaviors that's happening in the next generation is startling. And I would say it's right there at their fingertips, and I really don't know how to stop it. You can put parental controls on it, but it's so ubiquitous, it's so easy to find, and kids are smart. They can work around a lot of that stuff. When we have cases like this, and I'll show you the stats. You go to the next slide for me, please, John. Oh, I'm sorry, one more. I forgot one thing. Sexual intercourse. It's positive. They ever engaged in sexual intercourse? 23% of our seventh graders said yes. That number went down slightly. And I would say part of that is because they're not in the physical presence with each other as much as they used to be. When I was in high school, I actually had to go physically be with my friends. Now they're through a screen. So that is one positive trend, I believe, in society that social media has provided, that the kids are having less actual sex, but they're watching stuff and sending stuff that is, quite frankly, in my mind, is immoral. It's not appropriate for youth. Okay, so here's some of our stats that at school. Cases of sexual harassment. Incident counts, we had 28 incidents part of the pandemic with 24 kids involved. Number dropped slightly to 19 last year. Sexual offenses moderate. That's generally the sending of pornography, sexting at school. Vast majority of that stuff, ladies and gentlemen, doesn't happen on our time. and we don't want to own it. That's a parent's responsibility to be knowing what their child's doing in that bedroom at night. Now, we deal with the fallout because they send the stuff and then somebody gets embarrassed. Next thing you know, they're all upset at school. We notify parents, but we don't discipline kids for their acts at school. It's not our purview. So those numbers are probably much higher. We just don't make them code of conduct violations unless they do it at school. So sexual offenses, pornography basically, and sending nude pics, 47 cases, actually went down. And I'm going to speculate once again. Did it go down because kids are less sexualized, or has it become normalized? So now the girls and the guys kind of expect this to happen. They don't report it to their parents. They don't report it to us like they maybe did previously. And I hope that's not the case. I want to repeat. I'm speculating because it's curious to me. I'm a curious person. Why is this going down? Now, if we see a steady trend of this, I'm going to hope that we're making progress, that parents are doing more supervision, invading their children's privacy, that the adults that they interact with are reinforcing the messages. Don't be looking at that stuff. Don't send that stuff. Don't receive that stuff. Tell the people that you don't want to engage in that type of behavior. It's difficult, I know, for teenagers to resist the peer pressure because in our day, the peers were the people we went to school with, the kids in our neighborhood. The peers now are where? Everywhere. A kid halfway across the world, or an adult in many cases, as we know, that are predators on these kids and filling their minds with all types of bad things. So what I say, ladies and gentlemen, is that we cannot compare our experiences as youth to what Generation Z experiences. It's the most radical change in childhood has occurred in the last 15 to 20 years. Am I bashing media companies, social media, a little bit? They have a responsibility, but they're the most powerful companies in the world right now. And you've probably heard about efforts in Congress to maybe rein them in and to put more controls on it. I hope it happens, because if we don't, what's going to happen in the next 15 years? So I share this information with you not to scare you, not to make you sad, just to wake you up a little bit if you've been asleep. And if you've been awake, wake up your neighbors, wake up your friends, particularly those who have children in their homes, because it's not just our teenagers. The number of kids in elementary school that now carry cell phones is just growing every single year. Used responsibly, they're wonderful devices. You can learn a lot. You've got a window to the world. Used irresponsibly, they are so destructive. So I'm just asking you for your support in whatever means you have, just to reinforce to the people and our young people, don't do that. And truly, the only way really is for parents to be more engaged with their kids. And not just parents, grandparents, neighbors, because I'll estimate that a lot of the problems our kids have is because they spend a lot of time alone. They spend a lot of time in their rooms. When I was a kid growing up, and I keep referring to my childhood, but it's my experience, there was one TV in the house. We all watched the same TV at the same time. All in the family was a little risque back then. You know what I'm saying? But we all watched it. So now kids are watching stuff, and they're separated. There's just, I would estimate, a disengagement, not just between parents and adults, but overall in society in many cases. You guys are the exceptions. Why? Because you're here tonight. You're engaged individuals. You love your community like I do. I came here 35 years ago to be a teacher. And I've stayed because it's a great place. And I share this with you, and I want to thank the chief for letting me the opportunity, because I'm trying to spread the gospel a little bit, is that we've got to wake up and do what we can. We can't stop the media companies, but we can stop what happens inside our homes and our neighbors' homes and our grandchildren's homes, right? At least be aware of it and ask some critical questions. Because you know what? When you ask a kid a question, their reaction will tell you a lot. Tell you a lot. I think that's the last slide there, Johnny K. I'll be glad to answer any questions I can or take any comments. Yes, ma'am.
What is the policy with cell phones in school now?
Well, they're supposed to be out while in the classroom. At our high school level, kids carry them. Oh, I'm sorry, the question was, what's the cell phone policy? Thank you for cueing me there, Johnny K. The policy is that in the hallways, cafeteria, before school, after school, kids need their phones. In class, we put it away. Will teachers report? A lot of kids don't do it. Yeah. Middle school, a little bit tighter. Elementary, no having out at all. But I'll be honest, our biggest barrier to keeping the phones away from kids, who would you guess? Parents. And I understand part of it. I mean, I meet with these kids who have chronically violated the code of conduct, and cell phones are a lot of it. And I ask a simple question, well, ma'am, your son's been in trouble in class 15 times for the cell phone. They're flunking their classes. Why didn't you take the phone away? Because I'm afraid something would happen at school and I can't get in touch with them. I get that as a parent, but I'm also thinking, what's statistically more likely to happen? That you're going to continue to flunk this class if you have this phone, or likely to have something horrible happen? I'll go with what's more likely to happen. You're going to flunk this class if we don't keep that phone at home. But thank you for the question. Yes, sir.
Would school uniforms help in a sense, only if, if everybody's the same, you don't have better clothes, you don't have funny sneakers and that if somebody wants, where they've had kids in DC kill other kids for a jacket.
The question is, would school uniforms help? In my opinion, sir, yes. I think that uniformity and just having to get up and wear something, it stops some of the social disparities that you're referring to. Another thing I'll mention, the children of this community are a lot poorer than they were 20 years ago. A lot more of our kids qualify for free or reduced lunch. And I'm not saying that poverty is a reason for these things. What I'm saying is a child who doesn't have the clothes to wear, they certainly know that stigma. They understand that. So if I had the power, yes, but I'll estimate, sir, once again, our biggest barrier to that, the kids don't want to like it, but parents in many cases will support their kids. But that's been discussed. I've been a school administrator for almost 30 years. It's been discussed off and on for years. Thank you for the question.
You were talking about marijuana. Why does the governor make this stuff legal so kids can get hold of it more often now than they could back then, years ago?
Well, the question relates to why would the government make it legal given what we're seeing? Sir, I'm no expert, and I think it'd be better asked to the politicians, but we have a culture change. And I was a political science major, so I'll just speak what I know about how government works. Government responds to the people. And surveys have shown consistently over time that people have a more liberal attitude toward marijuana use. And many people would argue, and I understand it, alcohol is legal. Alcohol kills more people than marijuana. The problem with the marijuana today, sir, is the way I described, it's so easy to conceal and it's so more potent. And that's the thing that I don't think the legislators really understood when they liberalized the laws. They were thinking, what, marijuana leaf? And that's certainly not good for you. I'm not trying to make that case. But what we're seeing, the products that are being developed today, when they're that potent and they're actually causing kids to get sick because their bodies can absorb that much THC, that is certainly a concern. But the trend is more and more states through referendum, meaning what? The political process, the people have voted, they want to liberalize them. And I would say just like any dangerous product, sir, it's up to the parents. 21 is the legal age for alcohol, tobacco, and marijuana in this state. The parents need to keep it out of their homes. When they come to school upset because they're having a hearing with me because their child's got involved in drugs, I say this came from someone's home. We didn't manufacture it in our school. We're not dishing it out. It came from someone else's home by their child to our school to your child. Sir, I appreciate the question. Yes, ma'am.
Isn't it just medical marijuana that's legal in Virginia?
I'll defer to my law enforcement friends on that. I'm not an expert in that.
Recreational marijuana is legal. Special session of General Assembly was 2021? 2020?
Yeah.
You can possess up to 1 ounce, and you can grow 4 plants per household.
But correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, those products of edibles and the vapes are not legal in Virginia.
Correct.
So those products that are causing the most harm to our kids are not legal. And that's what we're catching. I mean, we have some marijuana leaf we catch, but that's almost always the vape now, almost always.
Another problem is, I'll just add, is when they legalized marijuana, they didn't set up any government dispensaries in Virginia yet. And still to this day, I don't think there's any legal dispensaries. So to obtain marijuana, you have to deal in the black market, which creates a whole nother problem. It's legal, but you only obtain it through the black market or growing it in your own household, which rarely happens. They're obtained in the black market, which creates dangerous situations
Yeah.
for children and adults.
I'll be honest, I don't see that cultural trend changing. I may be wrong, but more and more states, and even the federal government is now considering taking marijuana off the scheduled list from my reading. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
So when we started this discussion, there was a mention of that the school board is working on some of these issues. Could you kind of enlighten us as to what they're doing and which issues they're trying to?
Sure. I didn't bring that presentation. That would be another hour, but I'll give you a quick summary. We created wellness goals related to nutrition, physical activity, and social emotional well-being. Meaning these are 3 domains of wellness that we see that our kids need. My main responsibility falls into the area of social emotional well-being. I also oversee school counselors, school safety, and so some of the initiatives we've tried, quite frankly, are just common sense. We know that if kids are more active, they're less likely to be depressed or anxious. So a big initiative has been trying to get our kids into our local community. We have some great recreational resources. For example, we took all our 10th graders from Eastern View and CCHS prior to the pandemic to Lake Culpeper to learn how to use the watercraft. I think it cost the kids $2. Thank the town manager, thank you for making that free for our kids. They had to pay for a little bit of transportation. We take them to Rockwater Park. We take them to the town parks. We take them to State Climb. So we're doing a lot more recreational field trips, and parents may scratch their heads, well, why are you taking my kid on a recreational trip? Well, I'll mention a couple things. A, the population is poorer than it was. Some kids never get the chance. And how do you know you love climbing if you never climb? How do you know you don't find the serenity of being on the lake if you never get on the lake? So there's just one initiative that ties into the social well-being as well as the physical activity. The other piece, we've hired more mental health professionals in our schools. In 2018, we hired behavior interventionists, and these are mental health professionals with bachelor's degrees who typically work doing in-home counseling. They were doing in-school counseling for private agencies, and quite frankly, we hired them as our own. So each of our schools now has one. They work with a small caseload of kids that have chronic issues related to mental health. We've increased the number of school counselors. We've hired more people to deal with our children with disabilities, behavior specialists, applied behavior specialists. So we're increasing the pool of professionals in our school system to help us deal with this. We've also looked at our curriculum. We've had our health teachers. You know, the health curriculum, ladies and gentlemen, is this long, but we have this much time. Well, we've got to prioritize. So what's going to be the most important thing? So we looked at these results to prioritize. What do we need to spend the most time talking about? Substance use. What you'll see next year at our high schools, the school board approved most recently, there's a program called YADAP, the Youth Alcohol and Drug Prevention Program run by Virginia ABC. They take a group of high school kids to Longwood University in the summer, and they teach them how to do a campaign of peer-to-peer to reduce drug use and alcohol use. So we're going to send kids next summer to Longwood so they can come back and they can be the ones talking to their peers, doing awareness campaigns to help reduce some of that. So this is some of the examples, but truly the best anecdote to a lot of what we're doing is just good relationships. And yes, we can have relationships with our kids at school, and we need those, and we work hard at maintaining those positive relationships, but we can't do that by ourselves. That's why I mentioned the community has to step that up. But that's just some examples. Yes, ma'am. Well, you know, the question is, how could community partners help? Spend time with kids. You know, mentoring, and I know mentoring has kind of an official name, but if you know a kid in your neighborhood that you just kind of don't see out and about playing in the street, but you know they live in the house, ask parents' permission, say, hey, can I take them fishing? Can I take them for a walk? A walk in the park is easy and cheap. Simple things like that. It doesn't have to take a whole lot because kids want attention. And they're going to get attention either from the adults in their lives or from somebody on social media. It's a human craving to want to have someone pay attention to you. So, ma'am, I would say that certainly we can use volunteers to help us with some of these recreational trips. And if you have any good ideas, please call me at the school board office, send me an email, because we're looking for people to come engaged. A lot of our kids just can't access the great programs at school because of transportation. We have so much in our high schools and middle schools with clubs, and you guys have probably been to our ball games, our plays, our choral performances, so many great things. But when children, quite frankly, as parents don't have transportation, or parents are working in Northern Virginia and can't pick them up at 5:30 for practice. So I've long dreamed, could we have some way to have kind of like an Uber for kids to take them home from their after-school activities? And I also want to give props to one of our partners, Kids Central, at our elementary schools. They do a lot of good stuff with their kids in their after-school program and summer programming. But clearly, they're struggling as well as to find good people to work for them. So if you're so inclined and got some part-time work, come volunteer, take a part-time job, take a kid out somewhere, and truly just every little dollop of attention that's positive will help negate some of the negative attention that they're getting from their peers or from other sources. Yes, ma'am. I'm not familiar with that specific program. Do our elementary schools particularly invite community members in? I know I was principal at Sycamore Park. We had a group of retired ladies and a few gentlemen who would come in regularly and read with the kids and just spend time with them. We have a great relationship with our Chamber of Commerce. I mean, they do a great job of doing mock interviews most recently, I know, and they do a lot of things to support with like E-Squared. So we have great business support. But I would also say, a lot of professionals are busy. But clearly, anybody we can get in, business professionals, retirees that want to do something positive, contact the school principals and say what your skill set is and offer yourself up. Any other questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
So you said sexual intercourse, the incidence of that went down a little bit. How has that affected, or have you noticed the rate of teenage pregnancy?
That's probably a better question for the health department, but I'm a voracious reader, and I'm reading across the nation. Teen pregnancies have been dropping. There's been a recent uptick, but for a long time they've been dropping for the reasons I stated earlier. Kids just aren't in the physical presence of each other like they used to be, which is a positive, but also a negative because you're hanging out virtually versus actually being with your friends doing something fun. And back to the recreational. We lost a couple very important things in this community during the pandemic. Our bowling alley. Thank goodness our skating rink's back up. So anybody interested in investing in a bowling alley? Seriously, I've long said putt-putt in this community, a putt-putt golf course would be a huge money maker. So I'm just throwing things that this community doesn't have, that if they had it, that's one more thing we could take our kids to do. We used to take our kids bowling regularly. We miss that. We miss that. Any other questions? I don't see any other hands. Oh, yes, ma'am. Okay, you're good? Well, I so much appreciate the invitation. Chief Settle, thank you for inviting me. I'm welcome to this presentation for other community groups if you think it's useful. I mean, I'm trying to spread the gospel, so to speak. Once again, it's an honor to be in the same room with Mr. Jameson, all the great work you've done as a history person. I appreciate all you're doing to reinforce the history. I was a history teacher in this community, so thank you so much. And I appreciate the law enforcement partnership we have with the town police and the sheriff's office. And I do appreciate all of you. You guys are actually doing what we need people to do. Be engaged in your community, find out what the issues are, and then do something about it the best that you can. Thank you very much.